We all know the struggles of using our weak foot. It can be so frustrating to have one of your feet so far behind the other one, have your options basically halved by not being able to use your weak foot. Speaking from experience, and for a long time my weak foot was very poor. It's something I'm still working a lot on now, however I have seen improvements, and in today's video I'm going to give you a few mistakes that I made and a few tips that I have, so hopefully you can improve your weak foot too. Point number one is the single biggest thing that helps to improve my weak foot. If I take you back a few years ago, I played my first game with a VO camera. For anybody that doesn't know what this is, it's basically a big camera in the sky and it records the entire of your game and you can look back at it later after it's done recording. Obviously, as a kid, you love this kind of thing. Being able to see yourself playing a full game, it was exciting. So I've got the video, watched it back, and there were a few things that I noticed really stuck out. Every time that I used my weak foot in the game, my entire body looked like it was going through a stroke. My standing foot was miles from the ball, my arms were in the sky, my chest wasn't over the ball. It really didn't look pretty. When I compared this to my strong foot, and don't get me wrong, that wasn't perfect either, but it was a lot more controlled and I could see a huge difference between the two. So I decided I would take it a bit further and went in my back garden, did drills with my weak foot, did drills with my strong foot, recorded them and compared the differences. There were a few things that I noticed really stood out. First of all was my standing foot placement and position. Second of all was my actual left foot and the way it would turn in when hitting the ball. And lastly was my body position when shooting. I'll briefly cover each of these points, so if you have this problem too, then you can learn from some of the things that I took. First of all was standing foot placement, and this is obvious and simple. It's just how close my stronger, more dominant foot was when I was striking with my weak foot. We all know the standing foot has to be close enough to the ball so you can get enough power, and this was an obvious thing I had to change. Second of all was my weak foot actually turning in when striking the ball. This is something that was holding me back for a long time. Every time I would shoot with my left foot, my ankle would turn in and this would cause the ball to get less power. Ever since this, I've focused on trying to keep that ankle stiff, and this has meant that I can get more accuracy and power when using my left foot. And finally, I had my body position. Like I was speaking about earlier, my chest wasn't over the ball, my limbs were everywhere, and this meant I couldn't get the best strike on the ball. I'm going to create a full video on these three areas and a few more, as it's a problem that I had for a long time as a young player. So keep an eye out for that. Moving on to point two, and this is more focused on the drills that you can do to improve your weak foot. The cliche for your weak foot, and what a lot of coaches say when you ask how to improve it, is to simply use it more. This is obvious and often not very helpful, as we all know it. However, we want to know things that can help us improve it faster. Personally, the best drills that I found to improve my weak foot were wall drills. And the reason for this is you can get hundreds or thousands of touches within a session, all on your weak foot. And every time you touch the ball with your weak foot, you're working on it and you're improving it. So focusing on drills that got the most touches made sense for me, and it helped me a lot over the years. The videos that have been shown in this section can be changed to just work on your weak foot, and these are the kind of things that I was doing to work on it. After implementing the first 2 points, I found that I'd started to build a bit of a stronger base and my weak foot was slightly improving. And now that I'd done that, it meant that I could now focus on some more specific drills that were personalised for me. So as a striker or a winger, using my weak foot for me would look like crosses or shooting. Of course, I could have worked on this before working on my weak foot, but I think it's important to have a strong base before you work on harder things, more technical drills that you're crossing and you're shooting. The priority was still the first 2 points, to constantly improve the weak foot, and this would mean that the shooting would improve too. But if you feel like you're slightly ahead and you can do more position specific drills, then that's perfect. That will accelerate your weak foot further. For a defender, this could be your long balls, or for a midfielder, it could be short and long range passing or long range shooting. Whatever it is that you feel could help you most, practice this, but only using your weak foot, and trust me, you'll see massive improvements. The fourth point is another big mistake that I made, and it was becoming complacent with my weak foot. So after focusing on the first two and then the third point, I'd noticed that my weak foot had became better and I'd seen improvements. However, around this stage, I stopped doing the things that got me to that point. And this is okay for maybe a few days or a few weeks, but after a while, you'll get back used to the old habits and the old things that you were doing that led to your weak foot not being good enough. This is what I'd found, and just a few weeks later, the improvements I'd seen on my weak foot slowly weren't as significant. I'd stopped looking back at my own footage and I'd stopped doing wall drills as well as the position specific drills. And so it was no wonder that my weak foot was going back to what it was and it was getting worse. Because so many of our habits in football are subconscious, your mind will go back to this if you're not constantly training your mind to stay the way you want it to. I would recommend that you don't make the same mistake I did and to not get complacent with your weak foot or any of your training in football, because you can lose it just as fast as you gained it. And they have been my 4 tips that helped me improve my weak foot. I hope you can learn from some of the mistakes that I made and some of the tips were helpful. If you're interested in improving your football further, check the video in the top right. But for now, thank you for watching.